Let's kick off. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the respective lands upon which we meet, which we run, live, and play, and in particular, the people of the Yuin Nation and also the Ngarigo people. And the Yuin Nation is the south coast around Eden, Bega, that area down to the border, and the Ngarigo people reflect the snowy area around Jindabyne and Narrow Plains. First of all, I'd like to apologise on our behalf. Our website remains down, so does our mail server. It's been the last week. Our host in company had about 10 servers go down. They've got about 9 of those back up. The last one they've not been able to get up over the last day or two. That unfortunately happens to host our site and email, so I apologise for that. And if you've been trying to message us, we'll look to catch up as soon as we are able to. So apologies for that. And hopefully we're able to address any other queries on the fly tonight. This is the second of our series of webinars. Look, the first webinar and the recording is ready and will be dispatched out, and that related around race rules. And I'm sure if there's any other follow-up queries, we'll be able to address those. The second one, which is tonight, is runners' perspectives. It's really important too, given we have a large number of newcomers undertaking the event for the first time. Some may or may not have been down to the event or seen it in detail before. And we're really pleased tonight to have Lisa Sherman join us, Andy Heyden join us, and also Matt Pilley join us. We will have a third webinar, which will be more about support crew and from that perspective. And that is an extremely important one. And we encourage you again to get your support crew to attend those. Just a little bit of background on each of our 3 people for joining us this evening. So Lisa's a nutritionist and a recreational run coach. Also has her own backyard ultra event in Sydney as well, and is also a committee member for Ultra. So you have a fairly full dance card, Lisa. Loves her passion of food and running. That works well together. From a lifestyle and also a work perspective. Started running at 17 to join the police force, and just kept going, like the physical side of things. And after doing a number of marathons and halves, etc., decided to take a step up to an ultra. Thought that'd be good, tick that box, and then kept ticking that ultra box and liked it and went from there. Really pleased to have Lisa join us this evening. She's done Coast To Kosci twice before. Andy Hayden. Andy's now done 4, if I stand corrected, Andy. And Andy's usually around sort of between sort of a single digit finisher, and by that I mean he's normally in the top 10 of our runners. Andy builds his running portfolio across the year to peak for Coast To Kosci. What I will say, he's about the only runner who will put a 5K and a 10K time in amongst all the material for his application. I don't know really why that sways us at all, because we want the other distances to be proven, but we welcome Andy along. Also, Matt Pilley joining us this evening as well. Matt, this will be your third Coast To Kosci. I think Matt surprised himself in the very first one where he was up the front, and then all of a sudden was at the front and led the race for quite some time. And sometimes it's easy to be the hunter rather than the hunted, I think, Matt. And then Matt came back last year. And it was great to also have, when Matt crossed the finish line with his partner, to also have some baby clothes to cross the finish line as well, which was really cute and lovely as well. So thanks for joining us this evening, Matt. And with that, look, this will be very much a conversational hour. We'll just ask for perspectives, and the intent here is that you guys get to learn. We will look to address any questions in the chat, but it'll be a conversational flow. Thank you. And with that, I'll pass to you, Mr. Campbell.
Great, thanks, Greg. So I'm going to ask this question firstly of Lisa, and then to Matt, and then to Andy. But Greg kind of touched on it a little bit with your intro, Lisa. But how did you get into ultra running? What made you take the step from half marathons and marathons to doing an ultra?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for having me on. And yeah, really appreciate it, the chance to have a chat. So as I said, I was doing marathons, and then I always wanted to do the Great Ocean Road Marathon, which is actually 45K. And I was like, oh, well, that's actually more than a marathon. And then when I went to sign up, I realized they had a 60K, and I was like, oh, hang on a minute. That looks interesting. So I ticked on that and then went, what the hell have I just done? And yeah, and so did that one, thought, that was back in 2018. I thought, one, done, don't need to prove anything more to myself. And then very quickly worked out, no, 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 I want to keep doing this ultra marathon thing. And haven't done too many other shorter stuff since. So I just love the idea of challenging myself, and I think the simple act of when you are running for a really long time, that's all you have to really do is just think about moving forward and just one foot in front of the other. And it's the simplicity of it that I am drawn to. So it keeps me coming back.
I think so many people can relate to that. Matt, what brought you to ultras?
Um, First of all, thanks, Mickey and Greg. Thanks for having me back again. It's a fantastic race. So for me, 2010, I left the police force, and as a result, I probably struggled with meaning in life and identity. That was a big part of who I thought I was and how your friends view you. So I just found running, and it was as simple as running 2.5 kilometer loops around the house. And then it was around the time when GPS watches were sort of becoming more popular. So I used to like looking at the maps that it used to generate. So I thought the longer I run, the further I ran, the cooler the map looked. So that's pretty much progressed from 2.5 Ks to 5 Ks. And then it was like 20 Ks. And I was like, oh, how good's this? And then so on. And then probably the Glowworm Marathon was probably the first race I did. And I fell in love. And then it was UTA 100. And then, yeah, so it was just, yeah, for me, it's pretty boring, but I just liked how good the maps looked on the computer.
That's far from boring, probably very unique. Andy, what about you?
I think similar to Lisa for me, but yeah, I'd been running marathons for years. I ran my first one when I was 21 to raise money for British Heart Foundation because my dad had had a heart attack. Got into running, moved to Australia in '07, and in 2009, just having built up a bunch of running friends in Sydney, I had a crack at 6 foot track and loved it. And then I'd always wanted to do comrades and did that in 2010. And so it was, yeah, I went from 45 to 90, and then from comrades, yeah, onto the 100K road running, and stuck at that for a few years. And I first applied for Coast To Kosci back in 2013, but didn't get in for a couple of years those years, and sort of never ventured beyond the 100K till you wonderful gentlemen gave me a chance 4 years ago. And this will be five in a row. So I haven't looked back.
I
Touch wood,
remember
fingers
after
crossed,
year three,
Andy.
Andy, you might have mentioned that you were, oh, this is my last. And here you are, year five, still here.
Five seems like a good number.
All right.
Yeah, touch wood, fingers crossed. And I don't actually, no, I'll leave that. I won't talk about ratios of DNFs with finishes and those sorts of things in our event. Andy, while you've got the floor, and now you've got a mouthful as well. How does your training differ for Coast To Kosci compared to UTA or to other elements? How do you shift your training?
Yep. So look, I am definitely a road runner. Still scared of the trails. I'm tall and lanky, and I've got big feet, and I don't think it's my to my advantage the trails. So yeah, I look. I think Coast To Kosci is pretty much a road race. So I think I guess everyone for people who've done all their running on the trail, I think just be mindful that there's quite a few Ks on the tarmac. So I'd be sort of conditioning myself to be running hours on the tarmac, much as that's not necessarily so good for us. But yeah, I've always, I've based myself, and hence the comment around my application form. I know when I'm fit, when I'm marathon fit. So a road marathon for me is a great show of fitness. It gives me confidence, and now I can endure training. So I tend to do a block of road marathon training, and then that's always been the springboard to my 100Ks. And it's sort of the same for Coast To Kosci, to be honest. I'm probably, yeah, it could be different from everyone else, but I got sort of 30 years of running in my legs. I probably won't do more than 3.5 hour run in training. Um, and I'll still do speed work once or twice a week. But I think the main change for me between a marathon and Coast To Kosci is more strength work, more hills, a bit less intensity, and a good 6, 8, 10 block week of training, but no crazy long runs. Maybe a few hikes if I've got time and get out with the kids hiking, and just I'm generally on my feet all day every day, and I think that does count as well.
Thanks, Andy. Before I cross to Lisa, mate, you might be a little bit the exception to the rule, I think. Perhaps,
Yeah,
Andy. What about
absolutely.
what about your how do you shift your training when you step up to Coast to Kosci?
Yeah, so for me, I normally incorporate a bit of walking, but I do focus a little bit more on some power hiking as well. Um, I will sometimes wear a vest for that, like a weighted vest for that as well, just to sort of mimic being quite fatigued. Definitely more longer runs and more back-to-back stuff. So a longer run on, say, a Saturday, and then backing that up with another longer run on the Sunday, and also just heading out at different times of the day as well. So knowing that with Coast to Kosci, you're obviously out there for, starting first thing in the morning, and you're going through through the night. I'm not at the front. I'm not in the single digits finisher end. So yeah, so just being used to, heading out when you're tired, you've had a full day's work and you've still got to get out and do, a 4 or 5 hour long run and then back it up the next day. So it's more, yeah, but not so much pace kind of stuff. It's more that longer time on feet.
Thanks, Lisa. And Matt, to you?
Probably a big thing for me compared to UTA would be definitely training the stomach. I'm not very good at eating throughout races. And UTA 100, I can tend to get away with, I guess, the bare minimum. Generally, I can do it around 12 hours or under, whereas Coast to Kosci, you double that time and then some. So definitely training, making sure I'm hitting. I'm not really scientific or religious with numbers, but I do try to Coast to Kosci, mate, be mindful that I am training my stomach so that I can get used to eating on the run. So a few more gels, getting used to eating noodles on the run, those type of things. And definitely compared to UTA, less, I guess, stair type training and just running. So a bit like Andy, I do like trails as well, but I think I'm better on road type races where I can get into a rhythm and just go. Whereas a lot of the trail races, it's up and down, your heart rate's all over the place. So the good thing about Coast to Kosci is that for long runs, just about going on those long runs and just getting into a speed that you can feel like you can go all day at. So yeah, definitely less emphasis on stairs and definitely training the stomach more.
So
Thanks,
let's
Matt.
just stick with that then, Matt. You kind of detailed what you do in terms of nutrition and hydration. Lisa's probably our expert because she is a nutritionist, so I'll leave you to last. But Matt, anything else you really focus on or concentrate on in terms of nutrition and hydration?
Yeah, sure. So I'm definitely no expert on this. I've gotten better over the years, but it's definitely something I guess like a lot of runners, this is what we struggle at the most, especially on when it gets hot. The last thing you feel like doing is eating. So for me, what has worked is just being consistent throughout the day. So as far as water, I don't look to hit a certain number. So as far as water, I'm only drinking water that's really made up with my powder. And as well as that, I'm having gels. So I'm looking at, for me, around 80 to 90 carbs an hour, and that's just going off what the gels and the powder. So as I said, I know that's a big topic at the moment of how many carbs you can do. For me, that's just a sweet spot. That's something where I know it has worked in the past for me, so I don't really differ from that. So for me, it's just about being consistent. So throughout the day, I'm just always ensuring my support crew are always about 5 kilometers ahead of me, and I have one flask with me, and I ensure I get through that flask, and generally 1 to 2 gels throughout that time. So that 5Ks could take me, I guess, anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes, depending on the terrain. So yeah, that's as I said, it's not very scientific for me. That's just works. It's just little sips throughout the day, and I'm very lucky with my support crew. They definitely keep me on track. They're always reminding me throughout the day to keep eating and drinking. And other than that, probably the major checkpoints throughout the day, I won't try not to sit down, but they're the points where I might have like a cup of noodles or something like that. But I don't get any fancy than probably a cup of noodles because I just can't stomach anything else while I'm running.
You're always very unassuming, Matt. So you are. And you don't do anything scientific, but Jesus, that sounds pretty like tried and tested to me.
Yeah, that's right. And that's just tried throughout. I guess I haven't been running for long, about 10 years. And as I said, I've gotten better throughout the years. Once before, I'd probably be lucky to have 1 gel an hour. And as it is, I might go, yeah, it just works for me. And I guess your body gets used to it to a certain extent. And yeah, it's always worked for me. So, yeah, and hopefully everyone, that's the biggest thing. It's probably going to be the biggest letdown is your nutrition. So, yeah, hopefully you're all training with that at the moment.
Thanks, Matt. Andy, what about you?
Yeah, so I guess nutrition is different for everyone. You know, obviously your weight, you know, what you like, what you can stomach. But the things for me, I think worth mentioning are I think it's good to have options. I found last year, I mean, the tarmac hit 37 degrees last year, and I wasn't fancying or stomaching the stuff I'd had years before when it'd been cooler. So last year. I had my little Woolies Blueies custard pouches, which were just pure calories, and they went down an absolute dream. That may not be best from the nutritionist, but they were like a backup option, and I was smashing them for 2 or 3 hours. It's the only thing I fancy. Um, and hummus, which again I'd never tried before. I'd read a couple of articles around hummus, and I was supposed to be having hummus sandwiches. I couldn't get the sandwich down, so I was just eating spoons of hummus. So I think it's worth. I think having options is one thing. I mean, my strategy would be tailwind and liquids through the day, and onto gels through the night, and anything goes Saturday morning. To be honest, whatever will go down. And then, as Matt said, definitely, like I do try and have a solid lunch. I'd be having bananas quite a lot through the day. So I'll be having nuts. I'm pretty good. I can stomach most stuff and I try and mix it up. I try and have something I really look forward to every 3 or 4 hours, whether that's a little bit of treat food, which actually I find motivating. Um, and I guess the learning for me, I think the old science, and we'll let Lisa talk about it more, was sort of 1 gram per kilogram of body weight per hour. And I think the sort of more recent research is, especially in triathlon world, is going up towards 1.5 to 2 if you can take it. So I've looked to increase my nutrition the last 6 months and see if I can stomach it. And sorry, the last thing I'll add, I make my crew log everything, and I think that's really useful. So rather than guessing and trying to work out when your last meal was or how long it is since you've eaten, having a real go-to log. I'll tell them every pee and poop I've had, how long it was, what color it was, and just really try and build up a record, which hopefully keeps you out of hospital. You know, like so you've got a real good, clear feel of how you're going, how things are looking, how much you've eaten, how much you've drunk. I think that's definitely important when the weather's hot.
That's a brilliant point, Andy, and I hope the AI assistants that everybody's using pick up on that. Lisa, you're an expert in this kind of, well, you're very humble as well, but I'd call you an expert in this field. But what's your thoughts on hydration and nutrition?
Yeah, so I think the key is it has to be what works for you. And I think, absolutely you can take on board what others do, but you should be using every single run you do, every long run should be testing out what's going to work. And I think absolutely to Andy's point, I have very detailed list of what my plan is for my nutrition and my hydration, and I get my crew to mark off whether if it's like a tick that yes, I had that, or they make a note of what didn't work, or if I had something different. I think that's really important to know. So if you get to there will come a point in this sort of when you're out for that long that flavor fatigue sets in, or your mouth gets really dry and you can't stomach the sandwich that you thought you were going to have. And it's really important that the crew know, well, when was the last time Lisa had some solid food, or when did she last have, an electrolyte drink, or that sort of thing. I'm a big believer in, having options. I think is really good. You don't want too many options, but you want your crew. You need to have options that work for you, and then you get the crew to kind of go, do you want this or this sort of thing? So that, because you can't, it gets harder and harder for you to make the decision. You need them to just know what to offer. In training, I was actually, for last year's Coast to Kosci, I was actually consuming about 110 grams of carb an hour in my training, which was a lot, but it meant my plan was to train my gut to accommodate really high amount so that on race day I actually was then sitting closer to the 80, 85 grams, and it just sat really well because I was used to actually having more than that. So that was a strategy I had. And I go with real food to start with and then leave the gels and liquid nutrition to later when I find it, I get quite dry mouth and so on and find it hard to then chew food and so on. So I switched to that easier later. I'm also a big fan of we need protein. Like you can't just live off carb alone with this sort of these sort of races. You're out there for a long time and your muscles are breaking down. If you're just having carbs, you're going to get to a point where you need to support your muscles as well. So I will have a protein shake at the 6 hour mark, and then again at stages, a couple of other times throughout as a way of getting that. But I think the biggest thing, it's flavor fatigue, I reckon, is the big thing. So, if you're someone that usually, I know a lot of people like Tailwind or something. If you really like chocolate Tailwind, there will come a point in Coast to Kosci where chocolate Tailwind just will not work anymore. And you maybe need the pineapple flavor or something else. So, yeah, have that. Or you might just need a Gatorade or something else. So, and yeah, same as Andy, I'm a massive fan of, I call them mood boosters. So, a little bit of food, whether it's a Snickers or a Mars bar or a chocolate chip cookie or something that I can look forward to when it's sort of as a bit of a pick me up.
Fantastic. Greg?
Yeah, that's good. Perhaps just to add, probably add to that, just two considerations. Sometimes in having your team record everything for you, again, it's the trend data. It's not necessarily what you had, but it points to what you haven't had. That you haven't been in the toilet for 3 hours, or you haven't had a fluid for this period of time, or you haven't had anything of substance. And sometimes that's actually what it shows rather than what you've had. Also, for the novices or the first timers who are coming down to the event, just to stress for food, you pretty much need to have your own. There's nothing open in Eden at 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the morning. Number one, the Toowoomba breakfast barbecue is fantastic for bacon, egg rolls, and coffee and those things. That's 2 hours in. Then there's nothing until the Cathcart store at 70K, and it's a general store that if you want hunting equipment, you're in luck. If you want a wide variety of food, you're not going to be in so much luck. And then the next place is Dalgety at 148K. All right. And we will have soups, etc., there in the hall, but they're predominantly for the support crews. And then it's Jindabyne, and nothing is open in Jindabyne until 7:30 in the morning. So you need to be self-sufficient. If you're looking for, hey, we'll just duck to the servo and get something, or a surprise for our runner, it ain't happening. Excuse my language. So you need to make sure you've got all the things you need with you. Um, Coast to Kosci, you've already spoken, I suppose, Matt, about it being a lot. Really, it's a long road race because it's saying the first 3-4K is trail and it's fire trail pretty much. And then it's road and dirt from there on. Compared to other ultras, what are two or three things that you sort of have as essentials for Coast to Kosci that you may not have at other ultras?
Um, Definitely being a redhead, I can't survive without sun cream. So that's a definite. That's a definite for me. Unfortunately, I always try to leave it as long as I can. So maybe 10:30. So I've got to put it on because I feel like once you put it on, it just you're not sweating properly. It's just disgusting. But anyway, that's something that I can't go without. For Coast to Kosci, definitely if it's a hot year, like last year, what definitely got me through was arm sleeves packed with ice. So we started that fairly early on in the day from about 10 o'clock onwards. So those arm sleeves definitely saved me. I think I wore them all day until the night time. So the arm sleeves and also a hat, and I packed the ice in the hat. So yeah, definitely the arm sleeves, hat, sun cream, and lastly, I guess this isn't just uniquely for Coast to Kosci, but definitely nipple tape and body glide. Yeah, you want to put that body glide everywhere. You know, it's going to hurt regardless the next day after the race. But if you can limit that, especially during the race, like if you get a sore spot, that can just hinder your race. So yeah, definitely put the nipple tape on and lube up with the glide.
Mickey can tell. Thanks, Matt. Mickey can tell a story about my chafing at the very first Coast to Kosci Oscar. It's not very pretty. Um, Andy, we know you'll pack currents, right? What are your other 2 to 3 things that you would have for Coast to Kosci that you perhaps you wouldn't have at other ultras?
Well, funnily enough, sun cream and anti-chafing cream were the two I wrote down, so we're on the same page there. Look, I don't have anything fancy, but I would just say options, right? So many other races, you've got to drop bags, and you don't have much kit. Here, you've got a rolling car with you, so I would take advantage of that. So you know, I've got two. I would have 2 or 3 jackets. One super light windproof, a medium windproof, or slightly heavier jacket, and then a proper thick lined Gore-Tex. So just that sort of thing. I've got a light kind of fleece and a heavy fleece. I've got long sleeve shirts, short sleeve shirts. So just multiple options because the weather is all over the place. Um, and yeah, we've gone from th -10 wind chill to +37. So I just think having options of kit would be my best tip. Obviously, depending on what you've got, but mainly that's clothing, right? But yeah, different hats. You get fed up with some hats, have another hat. 2 pairs of sunglasses when one's just annoying you. Yeah, I just think it's little things like that which really help. Sometimes it might just feel a bit of comfort having a change of clothes, something a bit different. But I remember having, my go-to pair of race shoes last year lasted me about 4K and they just didn't feel right. Maybe the foot was a bit swollen, something wasn't right, so they were gone and I was back into another shoe. Just, yeah, so just options. More the better. I guess the negative side of that is putting doubt in the mind and, wanting to keep changing and messing around. So maybe the crew there, give them in advance a clear plan of what the options are and what you think might be handy in what situation. So you're not continually procrastinating over what you could and couldn't change.
Thanks, Andy. Lisa?
Yeah, I agree. I think you know, both years I've done it, we have had extreme weathers, both cold and wet and baking heat. So, being prepared for all weather. Insect repellent, there's a lot of little hitchhikers on your back and whatnot. And I remember trying to eat something out of a bowl, a cup last year, and there was just flies and everything dive bombing at night, which was a little bit of extra nutrition. So yeah, a bit of insect repellent. A small pillow because you have got the car with you, and if you're going to have a little, 20-minute nap or so, which I tend to do, like just sort of 20 minute, like just having a small pillow to put your head on just makes a world of it. Like nothing else. I don't have a mattress, don't put a blanket on or anything, but just having a pillow for my head makes it a little bit more comfortable. And yeah, definitely with the heat, I found cooling towels were great last year, just the ones that you can sort of wet and then just put around you would be something else that I would always make sure that I have available as well.
Thanks, Lisa.
Those are brilliant perspectives. I love doing these webinars because you keep on picking up so many hints and tips, and it's just great to hear those kind of diversity of perspectives. Like the Coast to Kosci, right? I mean, most ultra marathons, in fact, you're going to hit peaks and troughs, and probably Coast to Kosci brings on more than its fair share. So I'll start with Andy. Just dealing with challenges. How do you handle all those kind of peaks, those troughs, all those unexpected challenges along the way? Is it in your preparation, or is it during the race, or how do you go about it?
Yeah, the big fun thing for me would just be planning, to be honest, like really thinking through all the things that are most likely to happen. So, what are we going to do if we see a storm rolling in or if the hail comes down up on the peak? Just so they're not unexpected if you've already thought it through and planned it. And so I think, 80-90% of them we can plan for, then mentally you're ready for them and you've already got a plan and you know what's coming and and then if when times are getting hard again, you've just got to have a plan in advance to know when it's coming and know that right, let's take it an hour time. We'll get through this. We've done it before. You'll get through it. I mean, the most unexpected challenges I've had, to be honest, are the rotting sheep carcass, which was disgusting. Like didn't see that one coming, wanted to vomit. It was literally festering in the middle of the road, stunk to high heaven, middle of the day. Um, Maybe carrying some peppermint or something to take the smell away in the moment would be a handy hint for that. But I mean, so there's been little things, right? But they're 5 minute moments. I think Shaggy saw a tiger snake last year. I'm not sure if that was dead or alive still, but that's enough of an unexpected moment. Brown snakes, but they're all out there, right? We've just got to deal with it. So I think, yeah, I honestly think for me, it's 90% of it is really being prepared for it, knowing how you're going to feel in the moment, having something to deal with the doubt or the pushing through the fear barrier or whatever it is. And the big one for me is uh, actually, I mean, from a mindset point of view, it's the fear of what might happen. And I just like you got to get away from that and just get on with it. And then if something happens, deal with it in the moment. But like from the first one I did was the first 2K of trail. I was convinced I was going to roll my ankle because I'm a road runner, right? So stressful. Um, You've also, there's been plenty of stories about me putting bags over my feet for the first water crossing in my first Coast to Kosci. So I stopped, strapped 2 plastic bags over my shoes. Didn't want to get all my crap in my shoes. That was a challenge for me being a road runner, having to cross through a weir. Didn't realize there was about another 7 to come, and I was wasting my time. So yeah, these little stressful learnings that you grow from and move through for next time. But yeah, I don't know. Hallucinating about the million frogs on the road, which actually were frogs on the road. There's just lots of things that come up with nature, and I think you've got to embrace it, right? And I think that's the main thing. If we're all out there to enjoy ourselves and try and stay positive and just deal with it in the moment. But yeah, just planning ahead. And again, like a blister, right? The minute you've got a hot spot, let's stop and deal with it and dress it or change something and get it fixed. Don't wait an hour and let it grow into something much bigger that's then much more of a problem. So just, you know, trying to be in the headspace to deal with stuff early.
Brilliant. Lisa, I think Andy covered off every scenario under the sun there, but anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, I definitely agree. It's the what ifs, if this happens, what we're going to do. I think it's, understanding what you can control and what you can't control. And there's lots that you can't. So just focus on what you can control. I think knowing your why, like why are you there? There is a
Nora.
reason you wanted to do the put your application in, and your crew understanding that as well, so that when they see that you're sort of in a bit of a lull or sort of going down the spiral, they can help bring you back up with, reminding you of that. And I'm a big fan of mantras. I love mantras, just simple words that you can just repeat. I think I do remember last year heading up, Charlotte's Pass and hit a bit of a lull, and it was just like my crew just said to me, "Remember, why are you here? What was our goal?" And I was just like, forward progress, and that was just enough, and that's all I kept repeating to myself over and over for about an hour. But it got me through. So I think chatting with your crew, making sure your crew understand what motivates and drives you and how you like to be, if you're in a lull, do you want them to sing and dance and throw comments at you, or do you want them to be quiet? I don't know. I think it's really good that you talk to your crew as much as you can before you get down to Eden, so that they know what you're after.
Yeah. Beer, pizza, shower. Beer, pizza, shower. Beer, pizza, shower.
Got me through one of it.
Matt, anything to add?
For me, it's just the reflection that at the end of the day, it is just a race. I've gone through harder things in life, so it's all about perspective. If I've managed to get through those things in life, this is a race, and we're so lucky. We're all so lucky to be on the starting line and have the ability to do it. So I guess whatever happens throughout the race, it's the power of knowing that if that happens in your daily life, sometimes you don't have that option to stop. You've got to keep on going with life. Whereas this is just a race. You've got the choice to stop, but I think that brings a lot of power, knowing that you can beat those voices in your head and keep going. So I think it's just that reflection that at the end of the day, it is just a race. We all want to do well. We obviously all just want to get to the finish line. But yeah, there are bigger things. I'm sure everyone here has gone through bigger struggles in their life. than just a running race. So definitely that's a huge one for me. You got to realise that there's shit's going to happen throughout the race. There's no getting by that. Even if you come first or you come last, everyone's dealing with some kind of mental problems. Even the people that win it, they're not doing it easy. So it's just knowing that everyone is struggling out there at some point, and you've only got to just ride that wave. Just around the corner, it's going to get better, and you're going to be on top of the world. But then around the next corner, you could be going really bad. So it's just knowing the pain's not going to last forever. There's going to be some positives at the end. So yeah.
Beautiful words, Matty. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. All of those things mentioned by Andy, Lisa, and Matt have happened, do happen. The likelihood of those happening, exception of the riding the waves and the troughs and all those sorts of pieces, but snakes and the frogs and all those aspects, pretty minimal. But yeah, they do happen depending on the weather and depending on how the wildlife and how much wildlife is bred over the season as well. Um, just changing topic a little bit. Now it is a long way. It is a long time to be on your feet and a long race. Uh, Lisa, your perspectives on a pacing strategy or your approach, and that can be applicable to either different times of the day or different sections of Coast to Kosci. How do you pace the event?
Yeah, so I definitely think about it from a long perspective, sort of how long you're going to be out there for, and recognizing that, it's the old adage, you go out too hard, you'll pay for it later. So try and be conservative towards at the start and sort of by no means have it right all the time. It's all very good to talk about what we would do. But if it's feeling really comfortable in the first sort of 20, 30 Ks, perhaps might need to slow it down a bit because it might not feel quite that way towards the end. But definitely, I mean, my intention was always to, the big climbs, I'm hiking up those, hence why I do a bit of walking and stuff. And yeah, just try and remember that we're there for a while, and yeah, trying to just keep a lid on it. This is for myself. Yeah, I try not to go out too fast at the start. And I think the thing for me with Coast, it's always, I'm out there competing against myself. It's not about anyone else. My goal is to finish it. And I don't get too worried about who else is, where am I sitting in terms of position or anything like that. So that's not my jam. So just moving forward, as I said before, you just got to keep moving forward. My first year, I had my crew meeting me regularly, and I would stop at the car and and have a chat and stuff. Whereas last year, I was much better I just kept moving forward and would let them know what I want, and then they would have it ready the next one, and so on. So I tried to minimize those breaks at the car a lot more so that I was always moving.
Thanks, Lisa. Andy, your perspectives on how you approach your pacing approach for Kosci.
I think being flexible again. So, I mean, definitely the terrain, walking rather than walking every 5 minutes or X kilometers or whatever it is, just walking the hills as they come, rather than wasting effort trying to push up a hill. So walking the hills, slowing it down, and then thinking about the time of day and the heat. So again, not trying to push as hard during the heat of the day, especially if it's a hot day. If you get cooler periods, then that might be the time to push a little bit harder. But absolutely, like Lisa said, just not going too hard too soon. You've got a very long day, and I think the best progress is probably made if you can still be moving through the cool of the night and moving well. Then you can be moving forward at a better rate, right? So I think that's a definitely let's pull it back and be careful through the first day and give yourself a chance of moving well through the night, not getting cold, all those things. But yeah, just playing your own game again, not worrying about anyone else, and then being adaptable with the crew car. I mean, I think the first 3 years was always that sort of 5K sort of interval, which is what a lot of people do. But actually, last year, quite a few people were bringing that into 2 or 3K and just trying to drink more regularly and see the crew more regularly and keep an eye on the runner and load up with ice and stuff. So again, sorry, I know that's not pacing, but just flexible and changing based on the weather. I think that's really important.
Thank you, Andy. Now, Matt, you had two races. how did your pacing strategy differ for either both of those? And your thoughts on that for the 240K distance of Coast to Kosci?
Yeah, for sure. You just want to go out hard and just hold on. No, that definitely is
That was
not
your
a
first year.
that is definitely not a good strategy. I think there's a proven record that that doesn't end very well. So yeah, exactly like Lisa and Andy. As boring as it is, I think it is the tried and tested method. So the first year, I do feel like I still went out fairly conservative. It was just by chance. Well, I guess not by chance. I should be a bit more confident in myself. But by the 100 kilometer mark, I found myself in the lead, and I I honestly did not think I was that far up. So it was a bit like, okay, well, I'm in the lead now, and I probably once I hit the lead, I tried to push probably a bit too fast at that point, and got to the 210 kilometer mark and just ran out of juice. But I think a lot of that was probably just probably my approach to training, and I probably wasn't as fit as I probably thought I was at that stage, because I really didn't think I was pushing that far throughout the race. But yeah, definitely last year, um, I was definitely fitter and went and felt as though I went out easier, although my times to the checkpoints were pretty similar to the first year. The biggest difference where I made up my time was from Jindabyne to the finish. So that's where I made up the 1 hour. So I guess the pacing was pretty similar. But yeah, no, it'll be nothing special this year. I think it's my approach. I'm used to how I run now, and what feels good. So definitely feel easy. Just survive the day, I think, is the big thing. Is a big tip to give. You just want to survive the day. You want to eat. You want to feel good when the sun drops and you got your paces with you. And then throughout the night, when it cools down, that's when you can start moving on. So yeah, I'll definitely take it easy. There's no, unless you're someone like, if Jim Walmsley turned up, maybe he could run under 4 minute Ks for the whole race. But for the majority of people, I think the tried and tested method that's going to work is just run within yourself to at least Jindabyne, because yeah, you still got a long way to go. Even if it's only like 50 Ks in the scheme of the race, it's not far, but it's probably the slowest 50 K. It's probably the slowest part of the course. So you want to feel good, get to Jindabyne.
Fantastic. Thanks, Matt.
We've asked Jim to come along, by the way, but he's thus far declined. Just coincides with Christmas too much for him.
He's scared.
Yeah, he's probably running scared. Um, just sticking with you, Matt. I mean, I kind of like stick by this, but the most powerful learning opportunities is when things go wrong. When things really go wrong, then that's arguably your most powerful learning opportunity. So just wondering if you could share any mistakes or things that you've kind of done that you've really learned to do, and you're basically you feel a lot better for it.
I guess things that I've done in the past, mistakes I've made, which I've learnt from. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess probably my first 200 miles. So this is probably the last topic that we had to do with pacing. So my first 100-mile race was Tarawera in 2019. If people who know that race, who have done it, there's a boat ride. I can't even remember how far through, but you get to a certain point in the race and you got to take a boat over to the next point of the race, and probably the boat ride's like 10 minutes. At that stage, I think I was coming top five or something like that, and I think the people there thought I was in with the shot, and they thought I was some young up and coming ultra runner. I'm just trying to eat my sandwich and eat my banana, and they ask me questions, and I'm trying to answer them. I'm absolutely bug at that stage. Yeah, there's a YouTube clip actually if you went searching for 2019, and I'm on a boat being interviewed. That's my claim to fame. But I got to the 100 kilometer mark of that race and absolutely died. That next like 60 kilometers was a death march. So you think I'd learn from that, but I didn't. I think it was like the next year I did Human Hovel 100-mile race. Same thing again. I was in the lead 40 to 50 kilometers through, feeling pretty good, but then soon after just dropped and felt felt horrible, and then ended up death marching it back in. So definitely from those two mistakes, I've learned to pace a lot better now. And I think that's probably why I'm a little bit cautious at the start these days, because I know how much can go wrong if you go too fast at the start. So yeah, they're probably through pacing is probably the biggest mistakes that I've made and which I've improved on, Mickey.
Thanks for that, Matt. Lisa?
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably and something Andy actually touched on earlier. It's I can remember in one of my first ultras, getting blister, hot spots and just not dealing with them, thinking that it'll be all right. I'll get through, and no. So I'm a big believer now. Yeah, I'm always aware of those, and if I feel a hot spot coming up, and likewise too, I'll also put it down to getting really cold in one ultra, like not changing a top when I not taking the 10 seconds it would have taken me just to change the top and put a clean, a drier top on. Because I think, yeah, that you can end up coming unstuck later. It might not seem to matter right then and there, but it makes a difference later. So I tend to, like, certainly with Coast to Kosci and other ultras now, I always have two lots of gloves and things like that, just so that if one set gets wet, because I do get really cold hands, I'll change them out and put a drier pair on just so that I feel a lot more comfortable.
Great, Lisa. Thanks for that. And Andy?
Look, nothing major. I think it's little things that could turn into big mistakes. So I mean, I had horrendously sunburnt lips 2 or 3 years ago, which I just had forgotten. I think you're looking down the road, going up from Jindy upwards. You're looking down at a shiny tarmac for a number of hours, and so just yeah, I made a big note to make sure I reapplied lip balm a few times the next year. Sunburnt back of the thighs one year, or back of my calves, which I hadn't we'd forgotten about putting sun cream on, and that was painful for the next 3 days. But just yeah, it's having these checklists of all the little things that can get forgotten in the moment that can turn out to be bigger mistakes. I mean, and the other thing is just not doing something new. So what I think 2 or 3 years ago, I had a box of a brand of gels I'd never tried for whatever reason. They were probably on sale, knowing me, because I'm a cheapskate. Um, I may have tried them once or twice in training, but in the day on the next morning, I think they had 3 times the caffeine of the gels I usually have. Mega dose of caffeine. I took two, and they just did not hit the spot, and it was something I hadn't tried before. It was silly, really. So just quite simple things can cause quite big mistakes, I think.
I mean, it's true. I do a wee bit of mountaineering, and these small mistakes end up just snowballing and becoming massive problems going forward. So, yeah, if you look after the small stuff,
Yeah,
usually,
I mean, one thing I will mention, and that goes to that point. I think one of the worst moments I had was pretty early in the race, a couple of years ago when it was cold and wet. I got to the top of Big Jack. Yeah, I was in a t-shirt. I've been moving well. You're quite. And when we got to the top, it was exposed up the top, and it was blowing a wind, and I got so cold in about 30 seconds. And I hadn't told the guys. I didn't know what I wanted, but the jackets weren't ready. It was early on, and honestly, in that 30 seconds, I nearly was shutting down. It was really weird because it felt super warm on the move up the hill, working because you're going up the hill, and then suddenly stopped, felt exposed. Yeah, got frighteningly cold very quickly. So that was almost a shutdown. It was horrendous. And then like I just screamed at them, I'm going to keep walking. I just kept running, go and find the jacket, and I'll see you in 3 minutes down the road because I just had to move. So that I reckon if I'd stopped and sat down then, the body would have been shutting down pretty quick or
yeah.
getting cold very quick.
I mean, we mentioned that in the first webinar. We'll mention it in the third webinar, but it's a great shout out about making sure you've got the mandatory gear to go up the mountain because it can change rapidly.
And that's sorry, I'm taking the microphone here. That's one of my biggest things I struggle with is I find when I'm running, I get hot and then I stop for a walking break and I get cold. And I find I have these hours on end where it's just the kit just isn't right. The jacket on's too hot, the jacket off's too cold walking, and that's one of the things I find you've got to really practice and get a sense for and have options on. Sometimes you need two or three thin layers to be the right thing because I just find the difference between that running and walking for me that feels a really uncomfortable temperature change on moving and I don't feel comfortable in the same clothing running and walking.
That's good. Thanks, Andy. Again, change your topic a little. Matt, the first time you did Coast to Kosci and you're standing on the beach, what's the one thing you wish you knew about what lay ahead of you for the next 28, 30 hours?
Probably for me, I wish I went into it with a bit more confidence. So I guess my advice for everyone on the beach is you've applied to get into this race. You're being accepted. There's a reason why. There's plenty of people who haven't, didn't get the lovely phone call from Mickey or Greg. So you've got to be on that start line and have the belief. And I guess everyone's standing on that beach for different reasons. Some are hoping to win. Some are hoping maybe to get a top three. Some are hoping just to finish. So whatever you're going in there, whatever you're hoping to achieve, you got to have confidence and faith that that's going to happen. It's not going to be easy. There's definitely going to be patches throughout the race. It's going to be bloody hard, and you're wanting to give up. But if you give up, chances are you're going to regret it soon after, unless, of course, unless there's like a medical episode, that's something completely different. But for me, I just wish I went into the first one with a bit more confidence of my own ability, and who knows what would have happened from then. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing for me. Everyone here has earned their spot, and hopefully they've all done the training, and you just got to rely on that training that you've done, and you bring that to the start line.
Thanks, Matt. And you are all equals at the start line. Lisa, your perspective? The one thing you wish you knew when you're standing on the beach for that first time?
Oh, I don't know. Similar. I mean, I definitely had the feelings of a bit of imposter syndrome, like, what was I doing there, sort of thing, amongst all these, because there were some, people there that, I looked up to and knew what they were capable, runs they'd done and stuff. But to be honest, I giggle as well because I really could not for the life of me work out how we were going to get that first part of the course. Like I just couldn't get in my head where we would go out on the road and then where we would find that first trail. And I couldn't find anything. Yeah. And I think I spent way too much effort trying to worry about that because it was really simple. And I remember once we got to the start of that trailhead, I was just like, oh, I just wasted a lot of energy on that. So yeah, that would be,
It's got
yeah,
tape markings. It's
I
got
know. It's just, I think, yeah, I think you overthink it, right? So I guess that's what I, realized, that yeah, you can overthink it.
Thank you, Lisa, for sharing that. Andy, some years ago when you're first there, what's the one thing you wish you knew?
Yeah, I don't know.
They said that would make it easier or would have helped your performance.
I don't know. I've read a lot of race reports, and I think I had a good sense of what was coming. But I mean, it's more the advice of just really enjoying the moment and being present. And like, that beach it's a really special time. So trying to, like we're having a laugh, we're chatting, and there's lots of nervous energy. But just trying to really soak it up. And then I think another thing is just take lots of photos during the day and really get your crew to take a heap of photos. To who knows if you're coming back? Who knows if it's your first or your last? Like I just think. I find that some hours of the race just fly by and they're a blur, and 3 weeks later I can hardly remember what happened. So I think it's just no one sort of told me make sure you capture it, make sure you get loads of photos, write lots of things down, have stuff to remember it because but we're out there for such a long time, but actually it does all become a bit of a blur, and obviously our minds aren't at their best for many hours of the day. So yeah, just make sure you take loads of photos and capture it and have plenty of good memories to look back on.
Thanks for that, Andy. I think we're sort of getting towards the end now, Mickey.
We are, and I'd like to leave it there in actual fact because I love doing these webinars. I found it highly motivating just listening to those three guys. Highly informative, and hopefully you guys have found the same. So just like a huge thanks from both Greg and myself to Lisa, to Andy, to Matty, Really appreciate your insights, your perspectives, all different perspectives. So I'll be very surprised if nobody can take anything away from tonight's webinar, because it's definitely left me highly motivated. Greg?
Thanks, Mickey. Look, a couple of things. Again, thank you, Lisa and Andy. Nice to have you rocking the shirts tonight as well. What we will say too, our race shirts are only for the runners and officials, so they're not widely available. So if you see someone wearing them, they've either been an official or most likely a runner on it. It's very rare we have any spares available. So do look out for those. The second piece is our third webinar, which is in about 2 weeks' time. Will be much more around support crew and what to look for from the people who are going to help get you there. We can't stress enough the importance of having experienced people, having people who either have first aid or know how to get you out of holes. And also, again, from a medical perspective, it's really important that you think very carefully about those aspects. Having said that, that's a little bit more, perhaps much more on the serious side, but again, thank you. We anticipate the website and also our email server will be back up hopefully within the next 24, 48 hours. If it's not, we'll communicate out some separate arrangements around that. We wish you well for your ongoing training and preparation. Yeah, Mickey and myself, it's getting to the exciting time. There is a lot of work that goes into to support this event. We do want you to have a good time as runners and your support crews, and the best way to do that is to be prepared. And as I think Andy, Lisa, and Matt have all said about have an open mind, plan, but also be prepared to go with what's there and take in the lovely surrounds and the different zones you'll travel through. Thanks, Mickey.
Okay, everyone, that's us for this second webinar. We'll hopefully see you next week. Again, a huge thanks to Lisa, Andy, and Matt. Cheers, everyone.
No problems. Night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.